Listen, I think you better leave now.
Did he hit you?
Now.
Did he beat you?
Did he?
Somebody's got to talk to him.
Tawanda, if you know, you know. That battle cry became shorthand for every woman who'd had enough in the early 90s. Fried Green Tomatoes hit theaters in December 1991 and turned into something nobody expected. A sleeper hit that made audiences ugly cry into their popcorn while simultaneously wanting to ram shopping carts into jerks who stole parking spaces. The movie tells two parallel stories. There's Evelyn, a meek housewife played by Kathy Bates, who befriends an elderly woman in a nursing home. Jessica Tandy's character spins tales about two Depression-era women, the tomboy Idgie and the elegant Ruth, whose friendship anchored a small Alabama cafe. As the stories unfold, Evelyn transforms from doormat to force of nature.
There's no reason for you to be so rude to me back there.
Get away from me, you fat cow!
What did you call me?
Beat it, yo bitch!
The film made you laugh, cry, and crave Southern food you'd never heard of. What made Fried Green Tomatoes special was its refusal to fit into any box. Too quirky for the Oscar crowd, too sincere for cynics, too Southern for Hollywood. And yet, it became a cultural phenomenon, spawned a real restaurant that's still serving tourists, and created catchphrases that entered the lexicon. Today, we're counting down 15 weird facts about fried green tomatoes. Stick around for number 3, because it involves live insects, and a decision so brave it borders on unhinged. Now, before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for deep dives into the movies that shaped your childhood. Let's get into it with number 15. Number 15, the stunt double quit, so the actress covered herself in live bees. Let's start with the scene that defines the entire movie. Idgie reaches into a tree swarming with bees, pulls out a honeycomb, and gives it to Ruth. It's the moment Ruth realizes she's in love. Romantic, iconic. Also completely insane when you learn what happened behind the scenes. The scene needed a stunt double, standard procedure for live bee work. But when the double heard she'd be covered in real bees, not CGI, actual insects, she walked. Just quit on the spot. Can't blame her. So Mary Stuart Masterson volunteered. Here's how it worked. They put queen bee pheromone on her shirt. She became, in her words, effectively a giant bee magnet. The bees swarmed her. They did the scene 3 times without cutting.
Here you are, madame. This is for you.
Why did you do that? He could have been killed.
I'm sorry.
By the 3rd take, Masterson was so covered in bees I couldn't even see. The beekeeper, Norman Gary, who goes by the Bee Wrangler professionally, kept pumping smoke to calm them. Eventually, he started yelling, "Walk a little faster, okay, run." Masterson sprinted to a car, ripped off the pheromone shirt, drove away, put on a new shirt, and came back. Did it 3 more times, 6 takes total, covered in thousands of bees. And here's the kicker. Masterson insisted this be the last major scene she filmed. Not by accident, she said with a laugh. You know, in case I died or something. The beekeeper swears she never got stung. The scene made it into the final film. And Masterson? She added beehives to her own property in 2017. Number 14. The Oscar winner had a post-misery confidence meltdown. Kathy Bates won the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1990 for playing Annie Wilkes in Misery, the horror genre's first acting Oscar. Career-defining moment. Then she immediately booked Fried Green Tomatoes as her follow-up. You'd think she'd walk onto set radiating confidence. Nope. Bates had what she now calls a complete breakdown of professional self-awareness. She was 42 when she won the Oscar. But fame hit her like a child who had no idea how to handle success.
It's an assertiveness training class for Southern women. But that's a contradiction in terms, isn't it?
She showed up to events wearing inappropriate outfits. There's a photo of her getting out of a car, wearing a black lace bib and white bra underneath. Bates is mortified by it. The sudden spotlight paralyzed her. Instead of bringing Oscar winner swagger, she second-guessed every choice on set. She couldn't calibrate. Fresh off playing one of cinema's most iconic villains, she didn't know how to play a meek housewife finding her voice. And here's the irony that'll make you laugh. Despite Bates thinking she bombed the role, she received a BAFTA nomination for Best Supporting Actress. The British Academy thought she was excellent, Critics loved her. Audiences connected with Evelyn's journey. Turns out imposter syndrome doesn't care about your Oscar. Number 13, they hired a tomato consultant after poisoning the extras. Yeah, the fried green tomatoes in the film were real. The crew prepared them fresh every day using traditional Southern recipes. Cornmeal batter, bacon grease, the works. Authentic down to the last detail. Until one day when someone poisoned several extras. Here's what happened. Somebody in catering mistakenly used unripe red tomatoes instead of green tomatoes. Sounds harmless, right? Wrong. Unripe red tomatoes contain solanine, a mildly toxic compound. When undercooked, they can cause nausea, vomiting, and general misery. Several extras reported feeling sick after eating them between takes. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to cause what production notes called an emergency catering reset. Filming paused. Medics got involved. The production team realized they had a problem. The solution? They hired what the crew started calling a tomato consultant. An actual expert whose job was to verify that only firm green tomatoes from local Georgia farms made it onto the plates.
Oh, I can't believe you remembered and you made me fried green tomatoes.
No red tomatoes allowed. No more improvisation. Every tomato got inspected before battering. The consultant stayed on for the rest of filming, which means there's someone out there whose filmography includes tomato safety supervisor, fried green tomatoes. That's a resume line you can't buy. And the truly absurd part, the movie's called Fried Green Tomatoes. The signature dish is literally in the title, and yet they still managed to poison extras with the wrong tomatoes before figuring it out. Number 12, the food fight was one take, and entirely improvised. You know the kitchen scene where Iggy and Ruth have an all-out food fight? Flour flying, eggs splattering, total chaos. That wasn't choreographed. That wasn't rehearsed. That was Mary Stuart Masterson and Mary Louise Parker deciding to go for it with multiple cameras rolling. Here's how Masterson described it. They each worked with the prop master ahead of time to select their ammo. Eggs, check. Flour, got it. Whatever sticky substances looked good on camera, bring it on. Then cameras started rolling and they just went at each other. Entirely improvised. No script, no blocking. Just two actresses who'd built enough trust to wing a scene that could have gone horribly wrong. And because they only had one shot at it, once you're covered in flour and egg yolk, you can't exactly reset without a full costume change and shower. They made it count. Masterson said they could have showered and done it again.
We need to make a little paste.
But they only did it once because it was just too fun. Translation, they knew they'd nailed it. Why risk a second take when the first one captured pure joy? The scene became one of the most memorable in the film. It's the moment their friendship feels real, not acted. Real, because it basically was. Two actresses genuinely having fun, genuinely making each other laugh, genuinely in the moment. And here's the beautiful irony. The most spontaneous scene in the movie, the one that required 0 retakes, is the one fans quote and remember most. Number 11, Mary Louise Parker, got a leech burned off her leg. Southern swamps look beautiful on film. Ethereal, romantic even. In real life, disgusting. Full of things that want to attach themselves to you and suck your blood. Mary Louise Parker learned this the hard way. The movie includes a scene where Ruth dives into a swamp. Sounds simple enough, except they filmed in Georgia during hot summer months when every swamp creature was active and hungry. Parker did the dive, came out of the water. Then she noticed something attached to her leg, a leech.
You know poker isn't half bad. Oh, Angie, what's your mother gonna say when she sees us both?
A real, live, blood-sucking leech that had latched onto her skin and wasn't letting go. Parker shared this delightful detail during a Reddit AMA years later. I got a leech stuck to my leg in the scene where I had to dive in the swamp, and a grip had to come over and burn it off with his lighter. Casual, matter of fact. Like, this is just normal, Tuesday on a film set. Let's pause on that image. A grip with a lighter. Burning a leech off an actress's leg between takes. That's not in the job description. That's not what you sign up for when you join a period drama about friendship and fried food. According to the Blu-ray extras, insects and critters were a constant problem during filming. Hot summer months in the American South meant mosquitoes, flies, and apparently leeches looking for new hosts. The cast and crew dealt with this daily, but Parker's the only one who went on record about having a parasite burned off between takes. Number 10. The director spent 3 years rewriting because the first draft wasn't good enough. John Avnet read Fanny Flagg's novel in 1987 and immediately knew he wanted to make it into a film. He bought the rights, hired screenwriter Carol Sobieski, who'd written Annie and the Toy, to adapt it. She turned in a draft. Avnet read it and thought, nope. The problem wasn't that Sobieski's draft was bad, it just didn't capture what Avnet loved about the book. So he asked Fanny Flagg herself to help rework it. Flagg tried her hand at adapting her own work. That didn't work either. So Avnet did what any obsessed director would do, took over the screenplay himself, then spent 3 years writing draft after draft after draft, rewriting, restructuring, refining. 3 years of his life dedicated to getting the tone, characters, and story right. This wasn't a fast turnaround punch-up job. This was a man who loved these characters so much he couldn't let anyone else bring them to life incorrectly. 3 years, multiple complete rewrites, until he finally had a version he felt did justice to the novel. And here's the tragic irony. Carol Sobieski, whose first draft kicked off this whole process, died of cancer before the film was released. She never got to see the finished product. She received a co-writing credit alongside Flagg, and in many ways the film became a tribute to her legacy as a writer who believed in stories about underrepresented voices. The movie earned an Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay. Critics praised the structure and dialogue. Number 9, the town was nearly deserted, then became a tourist trap. When production designer Barbara Ling found Juliette, Georgia in 1991, the town was, in director John Avnet's words, nearly deserted. Population around 200, kudzu covering everything, buildings falling apart. The railroad still ran through it, but otherwise it was dying. Perfect for a movie about a forgotten southern town. Ling found the old general store and thought, that's the Whistle Stop Cafe. The production team cleaned up the kudzu, painted buildings, added vintage signage, and basically gave Juliette a makeover it hadn't seen in decades.
Will you dance with me?
I will not dance with you, and I will not marry you.
They built a fake bank building on a vacant lot, just a facade with fake bricks nailed to a wooden frame. If you look closely at the building today, you can see the bricks peeling off. It was never meant to be permanent, just a Hollywood illusion. Then the movie became a hit. And here's where the irony gets beautiful. 2 locals, Robert and Jerry Lynn Williams, saw an opportunity. The movie set was still standing. The cafe was still there. So they turned the fake movie cafe into a real restaurant. The Whistle Stop Cafe opened to the public. It serves fried green tomatoes, barbecue, and peach cobbler. It's still operating today, over 30 years later. The wait time can hit an hour and a half on busy days. Tourists come from around the world to eat in a fake cafe that became real. Bank facade? Someone built an actual building inside it and opened a gift shop. The graves of Buddy Threadgood and Ruth Jameson, movie props, are still in the cemetery. People visit them. Juliette went from nearly deserted to a thriving tourist attraction, all because Hollywood showed up, cleaned up the kudzu, and left the set standing. The town that was dying is now living off movie tourism. Number 8. The 2 leads tried to make the lesbian relationship explicit. The studio said no. In Fanny Flagg's novel, Iggy and Ruth aren't just friends with subtext. They're explicitly romantic. Flagg wrote them as lovers. The text is clear. There's a line in the book where Ruth realizes she's in love. When Iggy had grinned at her and tried to hand her that jar of honey, all these feelings that she had been trying to hold back came flooding through her. But this was 1991. Hollywood wasn't ready. Director John Avnet and the producers made a decision. The film would present them as deeply bonded friends.
Don't you want the honey? Got it just for you. It's all right, I do it all the time. I never get stung, honest.
No explicit romance, just intense subtext that viewers could interpret however they wanted. Mary Louise Parker tried to fight this. In a 2008 interview, she said, "I tried to make it a little bit more articulated at the time, but they didn't really want to go that way." The actresses played the subtext as clearly as they could without crossing whatever invisible line the studio had drawn. They held each other's gaze a beat too long. They touched with intimacy. They made choices that signaled this was more than friendship. And here's the beautiful, absurd irony. Despite the studio censoring the explicit lesbian relationship from the source material, Fried Green Tomatoes won a GLAAD Media Award for Best Lesbian Content in Film that year. Number 7, the film opened in 5 theaters, then made 10 times its budget. Universal Pictures had zero faith this movie would be a hit. Zero. So, when Fried Green Tomatoes premiered on December 27, 1991, they opened it in exactly 5 theaters. 5, not 50, not 500. 5. The studio spent $11 million making the film, and then basically whispered it into existence, hoping nobody would notice if it flopped. Except, word of mouth is a beautiful thing. Those 5 theaters turned into 673 theaters 4 weeks later, when it went into wide release. Then it kept growing. The film's widest release hit 1,331 theaters. That's a 266 times expansion from opening weekend.
I'm not doing anything to my mother.
Oh, no? Why do you think I'm over here for the summer? Your mother was so worried about you, she thought I might be able to try to talk some sense into you.
All because people wouldn't shut up about it. The film spent 10 weeks in the top 10 at the domestic box office, peaked at number 2, ranked number 11 for all films released in the U.S. in 1991. Not bad for a movie the studio tried to sneak into theaters like Contraband. Final worldwide gross, $119.4 million. On an $11 million budget, that's nearly 11 times the production cost. The kind of return that makes studio executives weep with joy while simultaneously kicking themselves for not having more faith in it. Here's a fun fact within a fun fact. During its first 4 weeks, the film never played in more than 35 theaters. But those 35 theaters were packed. The audience were telling friends. Friends were telling friends. The buzz built organically in a way social media couldn't have engineered if it tried. This was 1991. No Twitter, no Facebook, no viral marketing campaigns. Just genuine human beings saying, "You have to see this movie," to other genuine human beings. Number 6, Jessica Tandy and Kathy Bates were both recent Oscar winners. This casting is borderline absurd when you think about it. Jessica Tandy won Best Actress for Driving Miss Daisy in 1989. Kathy Bates won Best Actress for Misery in 1990. They're back-to-back Best Actress winners. And John Avnet got both of them for Fried Green Tomatoes. That's not normal. Oscar winners don't typically rush into modestly budgeted Southern dramas right after winning. They take on bigger projects. They leverage the Oscar for more money and prestige. But both Tandy and Bates said yes to this story.
What's bothering you, Sue?
I just feel so useless.
About friendship and fried food in a small Georgia town. Avnet wrote the film with Tandy in mind. She read the script and got excited. And after working with Bates on Men Don't Leave, Avnet knew she'd be perfect for Evelyn. When Bates read the script, she loved the characters and was particularly keen to work with Tandy. So you've got 2 consecutive Best Actress winners sharing the screen. Tandy was 82 during filming. Bates was 42. They're playing a nursing home friendship that bridges generations and transforms a lonely housewife's life. The film earned 2 Oscar nominations. Jessica Tandy for Best Supporting Actress and the screenplay for Best Adapted Screenplay. It didn't win either, but the nominations meant both Tandy and Bates received Oscar recognition for the same film. Here's the crazy part. Most films would kill to have one Oscar winner in the cast. Fried Green Tomatoes had 2 women who'd won in consecutive years, and neither was the name draw that guaranteed box office. They were just brilliant actresses who connected with the material. The film became a cultural touchstone that endured. Number 5, Fanny Flagg. Cameos as the workshop teacher. Watch the scene where Evelyn attends a women's empowerment seminar. There's an enthusiastic instructor leading the group, telling them, "You can get that spark back into your marriage." That's not a random actress, that's Fanny Flagg herself, the author of the novel the film is based on. It's a blink and you'll miss it cameo. Flagg isn't credited prominently, but there she is, playing the perky workshop leader, trying to teach women how to reignite their relationships through positive thinking and assertiveness. The irony is delicious. Flagg wrote a novel about women finding strength through friendship, and defying social expectations. Her cameo is as a woman teaching other women how to please their husbands. It's the opposite of what Ninny's stories inspire in Evelyn. Evelyn goes to that workshop looking for answers about how to fix her marriage by being a better wife. She leaves still unsatisfied. But then she meets Ninny, who tells her stories about women who didn't care about being proper or pleasing men. And that's what transforms Evelyn. So Flag cameos in the scene representing the old way of thinking, the make yourself more appealing to your husband approach. And her own story, the one she wrote, completely dismantles that message and offers something more radical. Number 4. The real Whistle Stop Cafe was in Alabama. The movie built a fake one in Georgia. Here's something that confuses people. There is a real Whistle Stop Cafe that inspired Fannie Flagg's novel. It's in Irondale, Alabama, a suburb of Birmingham where Flagg grew up. The original cafe was run by her great-aunt. That's the true source material, but the movie didn't film there. The movie was filmed in Juliette, Georgia, in a building that was never a cafe. It was a general store built in 1927. The production team transformed it into the fictional Whistle Stop Cafe, painted it, dressed in it, made it look period appropriate. So now there are 2 Whistle Stop Cafes. The real one in Irondale, Alabama, that inspired the book, and the movie set turned into a real restaurant in Juliette, Georgia that tourists visit. Most people who visit the Georgia Cafe think they're visiting the Whistle Stop Cafe. They're not. They're visiting a Hollywood set that became a restaurant, but the experience is still authentic because the movie made it real. The Irondale Cafe, meanwhile, has been operating since the 1930s. The current owner even expanded it in the 1990s after the movie created new interest. So, the real cafe benefited from the fake cafe's fame. And here's where it gets even weirder. The novel is set in Alabama, but filmed in Georgia. So Juliette, Georgia is pretending to be Whistle Stop, Alabama, which is actually Irondale, Alabama. But tourists go to Georgia thinking they're visiting Alabama, while the real Alabama location exists 200 miles away. It's geographic identity fraud on a level that would make Hollywood proud. 3 layers of location deception, all wrapped up in nostalgia for a place most visitors have never actually been. The lesson? Always read the fine print on your movie tourism. That iconic location might be a complete fabrication that became real through sheer force of pop culture will. Number 3, they filmed. During Georgia's hot summer, bugs everywhere. Fried green tomatoes filmed from June 10th to August 23rd, 1991. Peak summer in Georgia. Humidity you can taste. Temperatures in the 90s, with heat indexes pushing past 100. Mosquitoes the size of quarters, and every crawling thing active and hungry. The cast wore period costumes, long sleeves, full dresses, layers. Because it's the 1920s to 1930s, and you can't exactly dress characters in tank tops and shorts. So imagine doing take after take in wool and cotton, while sweat pools in places you can't scratch because cameras are rolling. The Blu-ray extras confirm that insects and critters were a constant problem. Not just the intentional bees. Everything. Flies swarming the food scenes, mosquitoes attacking during quiet moments, things crawling into costumes. Mary Louise Parker got a leech. Others probably got bitten repeatedly, but didn't do Reddit AMAs about it. The crew dealt with it too. Lighting technicians standing in the sun for hours. Camera operators covered in bug spray. Sound mixers trying to filter out cricket chirps and cicada screams. Everyone slowly melts while trying to capture the magic of a bygone era. And they couldn't exactly complain. This is filmmaking. You sign up for discomfort. But there's regular discomfort. Long hours, difficult scenes. And then there's southern summer discomfort, which is its own special circle of hell. The final film looks beautiful. Soft focus. Golden hour lighting. Dreamy nostalgia. You'd never know everyone was being devoured by insects and baking inside their clothes. But here's the thing. That authenticity shows. The sweat on actors' faces is real. The way they seek shade between lines is real. The exhaustion that reads as emotional weight. Partially real exhaustion from filming in a sauna. Number 2, the film won a GLAAD award. Despite censoring the gay relationship, we covered how Mary Louise Parker fought to make the lesbian relationship explicit and lost. The studio wanted ambiguity, plausible deniability, a friendship so intense it could be romantic, but never quite crosses the line on screen. That's the version that made it to theaters. Iggy and Ruth coded as deeply devoted friends with subtext you could read as romantic if you wanted to. Mainstream audiences could watch it as platonic friendship. Queer audiences could watch it as a love story. Everyone wins, right? Not exactly. The GLAAD Media Awards, given by the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, recognized Fried Green Tomatoes for Best Lesbian Content in Film. They gave the movie an award for its queer representation. Think about that. The studio censored the explicit lesbian relationship from the source material. The actresses fought to restore it and lost. The final film presents them ambiguously. And then GLAAD said, yes, this is good lesbian content. Here's an award. It's simultaneously validating and infuriating. Validating because GLAAD recognized what everyone actually saw on screen, a love story between two women. Infuriating because Hollywood got credit for queer representation while actively censoring it. Compare that to today. Modern audiences would revolt if a studio took an explicitly queer novel and straight-washed it into friendship for mainstream appeal. But in 1991, getting the GLAAD Award for subtext was considered a win. Number 1, the ghost jar of honey proves Iggy's still alive. But who put it there? Let's end with the detail that haunts every viewer who pays attention. At the very end of the film, Evelyn and Ninny visit Ruth's grave. There's a fresh jar of honey sitting on the headstone. Attached to it is a card that reads, "I'll always love you, the bee charmer." That's Iggy's signature. Ruth called her the bee charmer after the bee scene. Nobody else would leave that note, which means Iggy is alive, still out there somewhere, still loving Ruth decades after Ruth died. But here's what makes it wonderfully ambiguous. The film heavily implies that Ninny is Iggy, that she's been telling Evelyn her own story in third person the whole time. Except Ninny explicitly says she married Iggy's brother Cleo and had the biggest crush on Buddy Threadgood. Those statements don't work if she is Iggy, so either Ninny is Iggy lying about her identity, or Ninny knows Iggy and tipped her off that they'd be visiting the grave. Either way, someone left that honey jar recently, fresh enough that Evelyn notices it. The movie never explains. It just shows the jar and lets you draw conclusions. Is it proof that Ninny is Iggy? Is it proof that Iggy visited the grave that same day? Is it a ghost story? Is it Evelyn's imagination? Fans have argued about this for 33 years. The book offers different answers than the film, but the movie leaves it open. That jar of honey is simultaneously proof of life and maybe proof of something supernatural, or proof of an elaborate coincidence, or proof that stories and reality blur when you love someone enough. It's the perfect ending for a film about the stories we tell and the truths we choose to believe. Evelyn needed to believe in Iggy and Ruth's love. She needed their story to be real and ongoing. And so the universe, or Ninny, or Iggy herself, gave her that jar of honey. Most movies spell everything out. Fried Green Tomatoes said, "Here's a ghost jar, figure it out yourself," and left us wondering. So there you have it. 15 weird facts about fried green tomatoes that prove the magic you saw on screen came at a cost nobody mentioned. Which fact shocked you the most? Drop a comment below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into fried green tomatoes, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the movies and shows that raised us. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.